On the episode today, we have guest Dr. Daryll Wharton, who is a transformational teacher wellness coach, special educator, speaker, and founder of Teacher Recess Consulting. With over 20 years of experience in education, she is passionate about helping teachers prioritize their wellness to thrive in and outside of the classroom. Known for creating Recess for Teachers, Coach Daryll equips educators with practical tools and strategies to reduce and avoid teacher burnout. Her mission is to empower teachers to reignite their passion for teaching and lead balanced, fulfilling lives while making a lasting impact on their students. Get ready for an exciting episode.
I'm educational justice coach Lindsay Lyons, and here on the Time for Teachership podcast, we learn how to inspire educational innovation for racial and gender justice, design curricula grounded in student voice, and build capacity for shared leadership. I'm a former teacher leader turned instructional coach. I'm striving to live a life full of learning, running, baking, traveling, and parenting because we can be rockstar educators and be full human beings. If you're a principal, assistant superintendent, curriculum director, instructional coach, or teacher who enjoys nerding out about co-creating curriculum with students, I made this show for you. Here we go. Dr. Daryll Wharton, welcome to the Time for Teachership podcast. I am so glad you're here today.
Thank you. It's really, really nice. The title alone, it speaks volumes.
Thank you so much. I am so excited for what we're about to talk about. Is there anything that you want people to know before we really get into the conversation about you, about the topic of wellness, anything on your mind at the moment?
The main thing is that I create recess for teachers. And, teachers deserve that same break. They deserve to wake up feeling absolutely amazing. And I came up with that because I thought about how excited the kids get when they know that recess is coming up, and they know if their little name moves down on that behavior chart, they aren't going to go. And I just feel like that excitement, I feel like teachers should be able to come to work with that excitement every day. So that's what I do. I create recess for teachers.
What a cool line of work. That is amazing. I love it. I mean, I think this is kind of inherent. My next question is kind of like you're leading right into it already, but I love Dr. Bettina Love's work, and she talks specifically about freedom dreaming as dreams grounded in the critique of injustice. And so I'm curious to know, kind of in that context, what is that big dream that you hold for education or educators, however you want to answer that?
My big dream that I hope for is that students are met exactly where they are, and that every single learner is able to learn at their own pace. And, my motto when I was in the classroom was, if you can't learn the way that I teach, then I'm going to teach the way that you learn. And that means so much to me as a special educator and as a mom of a special needs, child. And I just think that if we actually met the teachers where they are as well, then they are going to be more equipped. They're going to have more strategies to say that, no, there are no failures in here. It's only learning processes. So my big dream is that every student just learns to be themselves and grow up and be a happy and productive adult. I know that's big, but we can do it. We can do it.
Oh, that is so good. I don't know if I have ever heard someone frame it in that way of like the same thing we do for students and desire for students, we could do for teachers, like that same personalization. I love that. Thank you. Now, I think there's probably leaders out there who, or even teachers out there who will hear some of this and be like, okay, I'm in this particular way of doing things. I have been doing things in this particular way. And I want this thing. I want, if I'm a leader, to support my teachers in this way. If I'm a teacher, I want to achieve kind of wellness and recess and that vibe. What are kind of the mindset shifts that people have to undergo to be able to make that a reality for themselves or their teachers from the leader's perspective?
I think that we as humans, we are creatures of habits. And I think that you really have to start questioning yourself. Why can't I be different? It is one thing that I teach in my framework is when those limiting beliefs start to come in and you think, oh, well, I've been doing it this way for so long. This is the only way that we do it. When you just say, well, why not? Well, why can't I do this? Why can't I start here instead of over here? Why can't I drive this way to work instead of that way to work? We become creatures of habit where we just become robotic. And I think that the word why is such a beautiful word. And it's something that I think that we can instill in our students as well. It's okay to ask me why. It's okay to say, well, why do I have to stand in a straight line? Which that's a whole nother show because I don't believe in that either. You have these kids that sit in the desk all day long. And they gotta walk in a line to the cafeteria. And it's like, I know if I had to do that at work, I would be a problem worker. So I just think that if we all just start questioning ourselves about how we do things, then we can say, you know what, today I'm going to do this a little different. And I think that you would be able to step out of your box more often than not if you just question yourself about why you do things the way you do things.
That is so, the implications for that are really widespread too. I love that. That is so simple and so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. I am really curious. You mentioned a framework. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk us through that piece or if there are other specific actions that you would recommend teachers think about or leaders think about, but I'm super curious to know like what is it that you help people to do and how do we get there?
I have a framework. I have my keynote speech is called "What's in Your Bag." And as teachers, we carry a bag to work all day, every day. And that bag is a metaphor for the weight that you carry around, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, anxiety, it's still that weight. So I teach in my framework that, you have to analyze what's in your bag. You have to take out what doesn't serve you, put in some things that serve you, and then you have to make sure that you constantly check. You constantly check. So that bag is also acronym for, building boundaries. What will you or will not accept for yourself? The A stands for aligning with your mindset to make sure that your true beliefs and who you are as a person does it align with your mindset because sometimes it doesn't. And that G stands for gaining clarity. What exactly do you want? I often shared, and this is the beginning of why I started doing teacher wellness. I used to weigh almost 700 pounds. And I lost, people would say, oh my goodness, I've lost over 400 pounds. And I know that that sounds like, oh my gosh. But what I really lost was self doubt and self hate, which is no comparison to the physical weight of what I've lost and what I've gained in just getting myself. And now I remember who I am all day, every single day. There's nothing that anyone else can say to me to make me feel different about myself. So that's my framework for just remember who you are. And we use the word teacher a lot, but I always tell teachers, you know what, in your head, call yourself an educator because it sounds different. When you walk in and you say, I am an educator, it makes a difference in how you speak to yourself. And so that is something that no one can take from you. And I often say to teachers, remember who you are. And that way you can thrive inside the classroom and most importantly, outside of the classroom as well.
I love first of all, thank you for sharing your own personal story. And I really appreciate that you're doing this work, that you've developed this framework. I think what I love about your framework is that it's really holistic. Like it's not just set a boundary and then just like that's the end, right? It's also that alignment of mindset and values I think is so important, right? We get into teaching for or education, we're educators for these specific reasons, and then we maybe lose sight of them because we're in the minutia or whatever, right? And like that doesn't serve us. And then I also love the idea of gaining clarity. I'm just thinking about like I have a particular priorities note, like a post-it
I
note right
love
behind my
it.
computer because it like reminds me when I'm in the midst of things and feeling overwhelmed, like what is most important. And I'm
Yes.
wondering if there are either like, key strategies like a post-it or kind of aha moments as you've coached teachers to kind of go through that and kind of unpack what's in their bag. Are there moments, either stories, moments, or strategies you'd want to share around that framework for listeners?
Yes. So I would say, first of all, decide what you want and then describe it. just like you would tell your students to. We're going to draw a picture today, and everybody's picture is going to be different. So at weighing almost 700 pounds, I used to say, I want to be skinny. But I wasn't successful until I defined and got clarity what that skinny was. And, I'm still cute and curvy. I'm not trying to be skinny. I realized that my skinny, quote unquote, was to be well. It was to be able to walk up and down the steps without breathing hard, to get down on the floor and get up, to start running if somebody started chasing me. You know what I mean? So once I defined what that skinny was, the goal looked really more reachable. I was like, oh, okay, because when you say to yourself, oh, I need to lose over 400 pounds, it's a wrap. If I would have thought of it like that. But when I thought of, I just want to walk a little bit better. I don't want my knees to hurt. I want my blood work to be better, my blood pressure to be better. Those things are more measurable. So I would say to teachers, write down, you want that clarity of exactly what you want. And not just as a teacher. I go back to remember who you are. You are a person, and you're modeling for students all day long of what their adult life is going to be like. And so, I saw somewhere a quote, teachers touch tomorrow. How powerful is that? So there is no world without us. Let's be clear. There is no world without us. We teach every single person that makes the world run. And so there's a huge responsibility in that. And you must model how do you come to work and still be happy and go home and be a good mother and a good wife and a good sister and a good daughter. It's important that children know that and not just only 1 + 1 is 2.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'm thinking now about how beautiful this work is and how important this work is. And I'm also thinking about all of the pressures that teachers have to contend with to be able to deal with to do this important work, right, that you're describing. And how do they kind of keep out the other stuff? Or, is it on my personal opinion is it is also on leaders to create the space for right teachers to be able to
Absolutely.
do that. So do you have either specific challenges that teachers face and kind of suggestions to overcome it, or advice for leaders of how to create that space? What can you give us there?
I would say, I always like to tell leaders that you must make sure that you are building community in your school. And, sometimes we have principals that sit in their office all day. And, no shade to them, because guess what? They have so many things that they need to do. So then block out your schedule and say, you know what? I'm going to get to work 15 minutes before all of the teachers, and I'm standing in that office and I'm going to say hi to every single person. Or, every Friday, I'm going to put a little personal note in their mailboxes. I'm going to walk around and not just walk around in the halls and you want your students to see you. I'm going to pop in my head and say, "Hey, Miss Teacher, how are you doing today? Do you need anything?" And I think that if you build that community for teachers to have a safe space and for them to know that you are their coach, because you are coaching them. That may be your next assistant principal. It may be your next colleague as a principal. And you should be able to take a day off and your school run as if you are still in the building. You can only do that by building community and that mutual respect.
Hi, this is Leah popping in to share the free resource for this episode, a Setting Intentions audio track. Listen to it every morning to assist with setting your intention for your school day and to help ease teacher burnout. You can text recess to 443-775-2325 to get it. Now back to the show.
That makes total sense to me. I'm also thinking about the kind of structure, the things that we ask of teachers is kind of wild. We basically ask them to do the impossible, to cover thousands of standards, right? To have very little prep time in many schools, to do all of these things. And I'm wondering if you've seen any leaders be successful with kind of the structural pieces,
reconfiguring how time is so you have more prep time. Or I know my one of the principals that I admired for modeling wellness was, she was like, all right, everybody out once the kids had gone. It was like, go home, like it's okay, whatever is not that, like let's be well, like go home, I'm gonna leave too. And I thought that kind of modeling was really something that I have seen as a concrete strategy.
Yes.
Yeah, anything that structurally or time
Think
wise would
that
support.
it would really be beneficial if leaders started to kind of, you have a process. Now, I'm always going to speak from a special education point of view. We have a lot of paperwork. We're prepping for IEP meetings in addition to the other duties that we have. And I will always say to my special educators, because I also was an IEP meeting facilitator for several years. And I would give out that IEP meeting like I call it a year at a glance, so that you will already know in September if you had 5 IEP meetings in March. You already knew that. So I would say to teachers, and I got my principal on board because I needed that message to come from my principal. And, he just basically told them, go ahead and start your progress report in September and add to it. And how good is that when you're at an IEP meeting and you're speaking, you actually have the documentation to back up what you're saying. So I think that, you can't be a person on an island. I think you have to meet with your admin team to really say, look, we really need to find a way how we're going to do anything, and also know your teachers. You know that if Miss Teacher B comes in every day and she's happy and she's bubbly, and she comes in one day and she barely speaks, oh, I'm going to her room, or I'm going to send someone, we need to go check on so and so. So I think that you need to have procedures and policies in place. And I know that that is just something that everyone says all day long, but I really think that you need to be very diligent in policies and procedures for everything, not just all of your district requirements, but how are you being a leader in your school? And this is what we do in our school to make sure everyone is well.
Mm. I love that. I don't know if I've ever heard someone say that, like just the idea of wellness policies. Like, what is the,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, that's good. Okay, I am also curious about, like, do you have anything around teachers coming to you saying, like, you know what, I don't know how to do my work in a container of, 35 hours a week or something. Like, I don't know how to not take the work home because there's just so much of it. I feel like that's constantly a struggle that
That's
I,
constantly a struggle. Yes.
yeah, hear teachers
So
say.
I talk about that in my bag framework, the building the boundaries. And at the end of the day, and that's what I say, like, if you already know you have, and I'm sorry, I'm always going to go back to special ed, but, I'm just going to use that as an example. If you know you have 5 IEP meetings in March, don't start on February the 20th and writing your, I think planning is very good, and keeping a running log of everything, and just creating the boundaries. And that may be hard. It may put you behind in some things at work, but you can say to yourself, you know what? On Mondays and Fridays or whatever, on Fridays, I'm leaving right at the time that I can leave per my contract. And I'm not staying beyond that. And teacher burnout is real. It's at 51% right now. And it's the number one I'm sorry, it's the number one profession for burnout right now. And we're at a teacher shortage. And people just don't understand that if you don't have any teachers, you are going to be in a bad shape. In a bad shape. So I would start with building those boundaries and saying, to yourself, yes, I want my job. I love my job. Most teachers don't do this because for the money. They do it for the love of teaching babies. But I think you also need to always put yourself first, because as teachers, we have things too. I might be in school as a special educator fighting and advocating for the students in the building, but guess what? I have a baby at home that has special needs. So I have to be in charge of that and make sure that I'm devoting that time to my own child as well.
I just love that listeners can like hear you, or if they're reading the transcript, read you saying those words, right? You have to put yourself first, because I don't think enough people say that, especially in a profession which is all about giving, right? We're always about the students, and yes, and I just love how you broke that down. It's like, and like you have life, you have your family, you have yourself to think about. And I think it's just so great to to get your take on
And
that.
leaders need to say that. Leaders need to tell the teachers that. Because let's be clear, the all school districts, they're businesses. You know what I mean? You can't take things so personal because it is a business. And if you decided to quit, your job is going to be posted. They're not going to call you and say, "Oh, well, we wonder what happened." Now, your leader, your principal may call you because hopefully that principal has a rapport with all of the staff members. But as a business, no, your job is going to be posted. And it doesn't matter if you're out for surgery or if you're home taking care of a sick parent, it doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, you have to say, am I going to constantly give from an empty cup, or you only get from my overflow? And that is it.
That is a lovely reframe. I love that. I just think I'm again looking at my notes of your bag framework. I love the idea of the concrete boundary that you shared. So like, right, Friday at the bell, I'm out. Like that's it. I
Mhm.
also think that idea of gaining clarity and values alignment is so it's why I love the the framework that you have, because I envision like my big shift from working 80 hours a week to like 40 hours a week was a combination of those three things, right? It was like I was a special education teacher also. And so I think, yeah. And so when we like do all of this stuff, right, it's easy to take on, take on, take on. And so I was like, okay, what is the most important, highest leverage things that I need to teach my students, that I need
Yeah.
collect data on for my student IP meetings, right? Like, what are these most important things, and what things are most values aligned? So when I'm designing, lessons or something, it's like, well, I really want my students to be really good at critical thought or discussion or whatever the thing is. And it's like, this is who I want students to be in the world. This is the thing that interests them. So I'm going to prioritize these things because I can't do 1,000 standards. So I'm going to just do this. And that way I have the boundary on my time and the alignment to my values and the clarity that like these are my focus areas. And now I
Yeah.
can move forward. And so I'm just thinking about my own journey and its relationship to your framework. And it's so good.
We may need a partner.
Yes.
That was perfect. That was perfect. And it's so simple. And it's like when I thought about it, I said, what teacher doesn't carry a bag to work? Like, but what's in it?
Oh my gosh, there's so much, I think, so many teachers that would benefit from, connecting with you. And I'm sure we'll share at the end kind of where people can connect with you and get in touch with you. I'm curious too, if they are excited to, book your keynote, for example, but that's like a couple months out, what's something they could do like after they listen to this episode and they're like, I want to just start now. I want to start with something like as soon as I end the episode today, I want to do something that's like a step in the right direction. What do you recommend for those folks?
I would tell them to create your goal, whatever your goal is for, and I would do a combination goal of you for yourself and you in your profession. And again, writing a picture, paint a picture of what does it look like? What does your perfect life look like as being an educator? I'm going to say that word, as an educator and as a person, and be clear about it. So what I incorporate in, because I also do workshops that is aligned with my keynote. And when I was in the process of losing all of that emotional weight, and like I said, the physical weight was a byproduct of that, I started with just saying affirmations. And the first one that I said was, I am disciplined and focused. I have it tattooed on my wrist. And And that is what I went on. And even if I was not disciplined and focused, I kept saying it over and over and over again. This is how we retrain our subconscious mind. So I'm also trained in neuro linguistic programming. And so that is speaking to your subconscious mind. This is how you basically change who you are, because your subconscious mind is constantly working in the background. And whatever you tell it, it will do whatever it can do to make it come true. So if you tell yourself that you're not pretty, if you tell yourself that you're not smart all the time, it's just working in the background, making sure that you will never be pretty when you look into the mirror, or never be able to achieve any goals that you want to achieve. So I'm going to give 3 things. I'm going to say, write your goal out. Then you're going to, specifically define that goal. Think of yourself as your student. How would you give your student this assignment? And list them out. And then sit with yourself for a moment. Just sit down and just visualize yourself. Visualize yourself walking in those shoes of who you want to be, what type of teacher you want to be, what type of person you want to be, and just meditate on it. And I'll share this at the end. I have a small gift for your listeners, and it's a meditation for them to listen to in the morning. And what I did was, it is an active meditation, because we're busy as teachers. I don't have time to sit down, with my legs crossed and, my eyes closed. You can listen to this in a car on your way to work. It helps you to set your intention and your tone of the day. But a bonus part of it is, you're going to come in, relax, and your students are going to feel the energy. Now, we all know that students know who you are. That's why they know what classroom they can act a fool in and what classroom they will not.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is definitely true. I love this idea of an active meditation. I'm a person who really struggles to sit still and like
Yeah.
stop. And so that sounds beautiful for me. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. And we'll be sure to link to that in the blog post for the episode.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
And so I have 2 closing questions for you. This next one is just for fun. It does not have to do with anything we talked about, though it can.
Okay.
Everyone on the podcast tries to I think learn and grow as a human being throughout their whole life. And so a fun question I have is, what is something that you have personally been learning about lately?
Oh my goodness, I have several things. So, I am a singer as well. I have an album out with its meditations and affirmations on the album, but I also have 3 songs. And I've always wanted to learn how to play the piano. And I want to get the other side of my brain working. And so I just signed up. Now, it's just an app now. I won't be doing any concerts, you know, lately or recently or whatever. Um, but yeah, so I am going to learn to play piano. It is something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to do it. And yoga. I want to be a certified yoga instructor. So those are the 2 things, my main things that I am learning right now. And as a teacher, you never stop learning. Never stop learning.
Those are beautiful and so seemingly aligned to everything else you do professionally that it's so like holistic and great. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing those.
sure.
And then I think the last question is, people are going to want to connect with you, learn more about you, just kind of follow the work that you're doing. Where is the best place for people to connect with you online?
They can I'm on Instagram as Teacher Recess Consulting. And of course, you can go to my website, drdaryl.com. And so I'm kind of revamping my website right now, but drdaryl.com is for if you would like to speak with me in regards to my keynote speaks, but I also have teacherrecess.com. And I have a podcast. My podcast is called Teacher Recess with Dr. Daryl. And I'm going to be sharing tips and a whole bunch of stuff that will be launching on February the 14th, because you need to have self-love and self-care.
That is perfect because I believe this episode will be launched on February 18th. So it will be
Yes,
out by the
be
time you're
perfect.
listening.
Yes, it will. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Daryl, thank you so, so much for your time today. I've so appreciated your wisdom.
And let me give you, because I want to give the free gift. Your listeners can text the word recess, and that number is 443-775-2325. and you would get an instant download of the meditation. And like I said, I love the active meditation. Number one, people want to be looking at me side eyes, like, how can you have an active meditation? It just gets you to think and put yourself first and set your intention of the day.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And we'll write out the directions for that in the blog post too, in case anyone is driving and can't write the number down.
Yes, you're right.
Awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Daryll.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
If you like this episode, I bet you'll be just as jazzed as I am about my coaching program for increasing student-led discussions in your school. Shane Safir and Jamila Dugan talk about a pedagogy of student voice in their book, Street Data. They say students should be talking for 75% of class time. Do students in your school talk for 75% of each class period? I would love for you to walk into any classroom in your community and see this in action. If you're smiling to yourself as you listen right now, grab 20 minutes on my calendar to brainstorm how I can help you make this big dream a reality. I'll help you build a comprehensive plan from full-day trainings and discussion protocols like Circle and Socratic Seminar to follow-up classroom visits where I can plan, witness, and debrief discussion-based lessons with your teachers. Sign up for a nerdy, no-strings-attached brainstorm call at lindsayBethLyons.com/contact. Until next time, leaders, think big, act brave, and be your best self.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at teachbetter.com/podcasts, and we'll see you at the next episode.